Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, I'm very excited today because we're going to talk about a very, very important subject in raising the children and bringing them in the shade of the Quran and the Sunnah, which is actually the responsibility of the parents in educating and giving their children the moral education. You know, it is true that the most important thing in our deen is aqidah. Second to that is morals. The Prophet ﷺ has said in one hadith, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Simply he summarized the purpose of his message in this hadith, saying that I was sent exclusively to perfect good manners. To perfect good manners. And the Prophet ﷺ have combined and gathered all the beautiful manners in his personality ﷺ. You know that the Prophet ﷺ was nicknamed before even he was appointed as a messenger, as as-Sadiq al-Amin. And those qualities, to be nicknamed with any of them, they don't come out of the space. You have really to work hard for them. The Prophet ﷺ never ever lied before or after he was appointed as a prophet. And he was always honest. Even after people opposed him, when he declared his prophethood and so on, his enemies and his opponents would still go and deposit their amanat with the Prophet ﷺ. They trusted him. They trusted him.
Ibn Abu Sufyan when he was with Caesar.
Exactly. And you know, you remember when the Meccans were reconstructing the Kaaba and they disputed concerning, and there was almost a fight, they were going to fight, the different tribes, as who should take the honor of putting the black stone in the corner of the Kaaba. And there, the Prophet ﷺ approached. So they said, here, we got as-Sadiq al-Amin. He's a young man. He was in his 30s. And they're the elders. But still, they trusted the Prophet ﷺ in judging between all the tribes because of his sidq and his amana, his truthfulness.
They know that he will be honest and
his
and
honesty.
fair. Yeah.
So actually, morals is about telling the truth, fulfilling the promise, fulfilling the oath, you know, being on time, rendering the trust to those who really own it, is a combination of all the good values and manners.
Talking about truthfulness, why do kids lie all the time? You know, like...
Well, why do adults lie, you know?
No, because adults are, you know, like, sometimes you just get out of something, like someone calls you at home and you don't want to answer, so you just tell the kid, say, I'm not home. Or, you know, it's not a lie. It's like a white lie, like what they call it. No, it's not a real lie.
I really like this conversation.
Well, it seems like we have a dispute here. Maybe you can...
You know, I really read a very interesting article concerning that. And there are several reasons why kids, innocent kids, tend to lie. First and foremost reason is fear and feeling insecure. That if the child feels that if he tells the truth, he will be punished. You know, somebody breaks a glass. Who did this? So he knows that if you say, I did, he will be beaten. He will be punished. So he will deny, no, I didn't. Even though that, you know, it's him who did it, or her. You know, and he will be uncovered. But he tends to lie to protect himself. And that's why best way to avoid that is to teach your children that. If you say the truth, you'll be safe.
No. It's like the kid who has chocolate cake all over the face. He said, who ate the cake? Not me! Covered in cake.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a very important reason. The second reason is that when you notice that your child tends to lie for a reason or another, don't you ever address him as liar. You know, this is very, very dangerous attitude. Because then he adopts it. Well, I'm already a liar. You know, so he tends to lie further and further and further. Not only at home, at school, with his kids, with his colleagues, with his teachers. So he will be labeled as a liar. And it's all because of the mother who called the son liar or a thief or. So don't you ever call him a liar. But shed more light on the beautiful, positive side of the child. You know, if he once says the truth, address this with the happiness, and you are a wonderful child. Thank you so much for saying the truth. You know what? For saying so, I will waive the punishment. I will not be mad at you, and so on.
If you tell me the truth, there'll be no punishment. But if you lie to me, there's going to be a consequence.
Another very important reason why do kids lie? Simply because they don't have the role model. You know, Hussam, you brought up a very important thing.
Yeah.
That kids, parents keep telling their kids that you have to tell the truth and only the truth, because if you lie, you go to the fire of hell. However, then the phone rings. The child will pick up the phone. Is your dad home? He said, no. Tell him no. I'm asleep. Well, you're telling him something, and you're doing something else.
Yeah.
So you do not see the role model. As a matter of fact, you're creating a split in the personality of your child and teaching him, instead of honesty, you're teaching him to be a hypocrite, to say what he doesn't do. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us as believers, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Whether parents or children, all you who believe, fear Allah and keep your duties to Him, and be amongst the truthful ones. وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Give stories of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and why he was called as-Siddiq, the verifier of the truth. You know, the Prophet ﷺ once said that, عَلَيْكُمْ بِالصِّدْقِ. Stick to telling the truth during all times. فَإِنَّ الصِّدْقَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْبِرِّ. Look at the sequence, which you can, besides teaching yourself and changing your attitude to the best, you can teach your children meanwhile. Keeping in mind that you have to set the role model. You have to set the example. That the Prophet ﷺ said that, stick to as-sidq, which is telling the truth.
So basically, the parent...
Since as-sidq leads to righteousness, to al-birr, piety and righteousness, then wal-birr yahdi ila al-jannah, and righteousness leads to paradise. And a man will continue to speak the truth and only the truth until he will be written with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as-Siddiq, a man of the truth. And the opposite is true. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned all of us against lying and telling lies. He said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَالْكَذِبِ, and beware of lying, since lying leads to fujur, rebelliousness. And al-fujur definitely leads to an-nar. And a man will continue to lie and lie until he will be known before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a liar. And this is the worst, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. The Prophet ﷺ once was asked, أَيَكُونُ الْمُؤْمِنُ كَذَّابًا? Is it possible that you find a believer who is a liar? It's not just he would lie once or twice, no, a liar. That's his habit. He said, no. A true believer is never a liar. You know, there was a teacher at a school for deaf and dumb, handicapped kids, where they can't hear nor speak. And the teacher asked one of the students to express about as-sidq, telling the truth, on the board. She gave her the marker, and she said, go ahead and express what's as-sidq. The child couldn't hear nor speak, so she had to express about truthfulness in certain way. You know, it was an amazing response. The girl drew a straight line from point A to point B. The teacher was very, very happy and applauded her reaction. As-sidq is a shortcut, is a straight path. Then she once again asked her to express lying and draw something that expresses about lying. So she drew crooked lines and circles and overlapping, interfering with each other and so on. And the teacher was very happy. And actually that was a very true expression, because this is lying. That, you know,
you just go around in circles.
Exactly. And you keep changing the story. That yourself do not have respect for yourself. And there is a very interesting story that where you can always relate to your children concerning the effect and the reward of telling the truth, even if you're afraid that there might be a punishment. That it was said that Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, he used to live in Mecca, was setting out with a caravan to acquire knowledge, to learn in Iraq. On his way, robbers attacked the caravan. And they robbed everyone. And they took all the money, the gold and the silver out of them. Except for this young boy. So their leader was asking them, did you collect all the money? They said, yes, except for this boy. So they went, he said, why not? They said that he's full. We asked them, do you have money? He said, yes. He actually had 40 dinar. This is all the money he had from his mother. So the leader came to him and said, young boy, do you have any money? He said, yes. Said, yes. Where? So he took it out and said, you fool. You know that if you didn't say I have any money, we wouldn't have taken it from you. So he said, well, but I can't lie because I promised my mother not to lie. Guess what happened? That word changed history, changed the fate of this whole gang, because their leader realized that, well, you're a child and you're afraid to break a promise that you made with your mother, and you're telling the truth and losing the only money you have for that. And we keep violating our promise with Allah every day. He cried and he repented. So his followers, the rest of the gang said, well, you are our leader in robbing, and now you are our leader in repenting. And everybody repented because of the sidq of one child. فَالصِّدْقُ مَنْجَاهٍ. Even if it appears that there is a risk in it, the risk of punishment, the risk of destruction, but it is actually a rescue if you tell the truth.
What about compromising?
I really wanted to pick on one thing that you mentioned, which is white lie. There is nothing called white lies and black lies. Lie is a lie.
Lie is a lie.
It's a lie even if it's in joking.
Yeah.
Oh, when the Prophet ﷺ warned us against lying to make people laugh.
No. Do you have wudu?
Yes, I do, alhamdulillah.
Do you have wudu?
How about you, brothers?
Maybe
you need to get ready.
Okay, yeah, we need to get ready. The prayer's in about 15 minutes or so, inshallah.
طيب, Bismillah. Subhanallah.
Many people trying to get together, but all their efforts were in vain because of ignoring or turning away from this great foundation. We see many people coming to the way of truth, following the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but later on, they get off track. What is the reason behind that? Unity is a result, it's not a cover-up. We have to be united from inside. And Allah made this clear in the Quran when He said, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ.
Sheikh, you were talking about children lying, which remind me, when children are being put under pressure and sometimes, they might fear that they will be punished, which remind me of a story with my own daughter. Once, we were cooking for Ramadan to feed the people at the masjid, and I had the tray of rice set in the corner, and she accidentally stepped into the rice. So I said, who stepped in the rice? And she was afraid that I would punish her. She said, Hamza, the bird. So Hamza have a little feet like this, So I see a big footprint
in the rice.
In the rice.
That's interesting.
So
that's a big bite.
Yeah. So she lied, fearing that she'll be punished, and this is one of the reasons.
Then I would refer this as it's your fault, not hers.
Yes.
Because once you establish the sense of security with your children, that if you say the truth, you will not be punished as bad as if you lie, then the child will feel secure to tell you the truth and bear the consequences. I'm at fault. That's fine. I admit, Talking about other beautiful habits and good manners and so on, and the responsibility of giving your children the moral education, fulfilling the promise.
Fulfilling the promise.
Yeah. How can we help the children with
talking about fulfilling the promise? That the Prophet ﷺ considered lying, not fulfilling the promise, and wasting the amana are the three components of complete hypocrisy. Saying that ثلاث من كنا فيه, there are three bad qualities. Whoever will have them is a complete hypocrite.
All three.
All three. Lying consistently. Fulfilling the promise regularly. And not fulfilling the promise, not fulfilling the promise. Okay, breaking a promise. And the third is wasting the amana. You know, so we have the three important qualities: telling the truth, speaking the truth under any circumstances. You don't have to be under oath. Second, fulfilling a promise. And fulfilling a promise can be practiced on a daily basis. If the child gives an appointment to go to visit a friend or to receive a friend, then you have to strive hard to take your child to the appointment right on time.
This is my biggest pet peeve in the world. Is with my biggest pet peeve with the Muslims is we're the ones who are supposed to care more about time. We know how precious time is. We know that Allah only gives us so much time, and then it's like, okay, I'll meet you at noon. If I'm not there by 1, wait, because I'll be there by 4.
You know, I'm glad you said that's your problem with some of the Muslims, not with Islam, because Islam actually teaches
the opposite.
You know, the opposite. Why it is, unfortunately, the attitude of some of the Muslims who do not really have the sense of importance of time. So you say, I'm coming afternoon. When afternoon?
No, I had a Quran teacher who said, I'll be there after the Dhuhr, and he showed up after Maghrib.
And we inject this into the mind of our children. Yeah, we have plenty of time. No, you have to be on time. So remember, to teach your child those good manners, you have yourself to start practicing them regularly. To set the example and be a role model for your child. Time management. Rendering the trust and the deposits. Al-amana. Being honest. You know, this is a very, very important component of good manners. And some people just limit it to if somebody deposits something with you and he asks for it back, you just give it to him. No, this is just one of the components of being honest. One thing. There are so many other forms like keeping a secret. And you can actually try to entrust your child with a secret once and say, you know, I don't want you to tell anyone. And see how fast he can hold on that. You know, give him a chance to practice that. And if his friend tells him a secret, tell him, I don't want to hear it, because that's a secret. And you promised not to say it. You know?
How would
then
you
the child will go and say, Daddy, Mommy said not for me not to tell you this. You know?
Now, amana also can be demonstrated in its best form in the prayer. That many kids, since the parents dictate to them what to do in a very old-fashioned manner, that you have to pray right now and before you eat. Okay, so he will pray. No, you did not pray proper. Pray over. Repeat your prayer. So he or she will tend to pray properly only in the presence of a supervisor. Al-amana would require that if the child is being supervised by the parents or anybody else, have been seen or not, he's been supervised by the greatest supervisor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if he or she is behind closed doors, they came from school early or out on a field trip, when they know that it's a prayer time, they don't wait for a reminder. Because out of honesty, they will pray properly and on time. So those beautiful facts cannot be acquired overnight. The parents have to be the role model.
What are some other attributes that we'd like our children to have? Like, I know I want my children to be generous. I know I want them to... How can we implement these?
I know that we have very short time, but I can't leave today without discussing one of the most important attitudes and good qualities that you should really plant in the heart of your child and have him adopt it as a practice. Patience. Patience. As-sabr. You know why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply said that إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. That the patient ones would receive their wages and reward without limit. And why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said a very great reward for fasting, which is with Him alone, because the Prophet ﷺ said that fasting is all about patience. So this is a good opportunity today. We're fasting, you know, to pick on that. You can teach patience through
sports,
fasting.
Fasting. Yeah.
Fasting on hunger and thirst. Fasting on doing things which you regularly do, but now you're fasting. So a child 4, 5 years old does not necessarily have to fast for the whole day, a few hours. There is patience. So the practice of patience is very important. Whenever you're sick, as the father, some people make a big deal out of a little flu. And they complain and they tell everybody, oh, you know, they want everybody to feel that they're sick. What's going to happen? The child is going to copy the parents. But if the father or the mother are holding fast and showing strength, they are extremely sick. How are you? Alhamdulillah, I can be better. I can't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough. It could be worse and so on. That's going to be the attitude which will be adopted by the child. And it's all because of you. You set the example.
So basically,
patience on diseases and illness, suffering, poverty, lack of means of livelihood. Also patience on performing the ibadat, especially Salatul Fajr. You know, it's not only for the children, for adults, very tough that you get up, especially in winter, and you leave your bed and you're comfortable,
warm and cozy in there.
And you have to go and pray in the masjid and make wudu with cold water. That requires patience. You know, there is a very interesting sport can really teach patience, which is fishing. You don't know, you don't see what's underneath the water.
No.
And you're just waiting for your provision. So this is a very good and important...
When I was a kid, I hated fishing.
I love fishing, and I used to go fishing,
Till now,
and I recite Quran. This is the most beautiful time where I can review my Quran and so on, and make my adhkar, if it is before sunset or if it is early morning. Just live in the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember Him, make my adhkar, praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and recite Quran, and guess what? Wait for my provision. And you're very delighted when you see the fish jumping, and that's your provision. So patience can be acquired through different means: ibadat, sickness, sports, fasting. And that's why it is very important to get our children used to practice fasting as early as possible. Not necessarily throughout the whole day, but you know, a few hours, and that can increase.
Didn't Muhammad say that patience is half the deen?
Alayhi salatu wassalam. Naam. Naam.
Sometimes we can also teach the children when we go out, like shopping, and everybody's pushing and want to get in line. We can teach them
That's
that,
right.
you know, don't
Do you-
push.
do you
This
live
is
in-
haram.
do you live in
Talking
Cairo?
about shopping, you know, when the kids get their new outfit and so on, and they go to school, and they're very proud that they're wearing this brand name, and they show off and so on. This is a very dangerous attitude, which you have to play an important role in correcting that, which is humility and humbleness. You know, the Prophet ﷺ was the most humble man, even though he was the greatest man. And he ordered us to humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine that. When we line up in the prayer, everybody bows down at the same time.
The rich man.
Everybody, rich and poor, puts his forehead and the nose on the floor. We're equal. The person next to you may be rich, may be poor, maybe the doorkeeper, right? Maybe your physician. So our deen have some beautiful practices that will teach an adult and a child humility. And we have to emphasize on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow a person who has an atom weight of arrogance or kibr to enter paradise. So this is very, very dangerous.
That was one of the things that attracted me to Islam. The first time I ever walked into a masjid, and I saw the whole universe, you know, black, white, brown, yellow, green, every shade of the rainbow, standing there together, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, doing the same acts of worship to the same God.
Brother Ismail, did you ever go for Hajj?
No, inshallah.
Then man, you need to go for Hajj,
Oh,
and you will
subhanallah.
see the beauty of Islam
Yes.
presented in the practice of Hajj. Subhanallah. You know,
You need to have a lot of patience.
you know, there is another way that you can teach your children humbleness. You know, once every while, even if you're rich enough and you have a maid, have your child clean up the bathroom. Nothing wrong with that. You know, that teaches humility. Pick up the trash to the dumpster. Go to the masjid and sweep the masjid or vacuum the carpet, you know. You're a part of the community. Your parents may be doctors, engineers, very rich. However, You belong to the Muslim Ummah. You are just a unit in this Ummah. You have to show humility and humble yourself before Allah at first and before your brothers and sisters. Once again, remember, the children will never show humility and behave with humbleness if the parents are arrogant. You know?
But also humility has a limit. Like I shouldn't do it too much in front of the kids, so he could be, like I don't know.
لا,
Like,
in a moderate way.
Yeah, there's a
In
difference between
moderate way.
humility and weakness, though.
No,
And I think
no.
people get that confused. They think that if you're humble, that you're weak.
Out of generosity, which is one of the beautiful manners that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, which is al-karam, that would combine between tawadu' and karam, humility and generosity, that whenever a guest comes, that you serve the guest the food or the drink by yourself. Have your child do that several times, so that he would have the sense of honoring the guest, respecting the guest, and feeding or giving the treat to the guest. So it's a combination of tawadu' and generosity.
Inshallah.
Talking about generosity and so on, nowadays you have heard about what's gone on in Pakistan and so on. It's very important to talk to our children. It's not fair that we're eating, drinking, enjoying life, and our Muslim brothers and sisters are suffering somewhere else. We'll talk about that next time, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. By the way, since when we didn't pray the supplication of Surah Al-Furqan, ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. السلام عليكم.
Wa alaikum assalam. Let's go to the masjid, guys.